there and welcome back to Japan, where we're doing a reaction and review to BRIDEAR with Ignite. If you've been following this channel for a while, or at least the channel that we had before it was closed down, you know what a big deal this is. This is the first BRIDEAR song I've ever listened to, after us jokingly making a lot of points about how many requests we have for BRIDEAR and how at first we were just accidentally forgetting to get round to them, and then it started to become a joke. And then in our awards for our first year, we gave an award for most ignored band, I believe we said, to BRIDEAR. And said, hey, we'll eventually get round to them. Then there was the hashtag no BRIDEAR till 2000 subs thing, but then the channel went down. So anyway, we finally decided, hey, you know what, let's do BRIDEAR, and here we are. Now, just to point out before we go any further, because you guys probably already know this if you've been to this channel before, but as this is the first time we're covering BRIDEAR, there might be a lot of first-time watchers here. We do the reaction and review, but the way we have to do things now is that reaction, I've actually just done it, I'm about to give you the review. The reaction you can watch by clicking the little link in the description below, which will open a separate player, so you can pause me now, watch the reaction, and then come back for the review. This is going to be quite a big one. So if you haven't already, pause this video, check out the link in the description below, click that, open up the reaction. Have you seen it? Do you know the song? Have you heard my reaction if you need to? Have you watched it? Are you ready? If so, here we go. Alright, review-wise. So I made a lot of points during the reaction, just sort of picking up on the things I was hearing as I was hearing it for the first time. And there's a lot of things that, a lot of strange things that came to mind when I was listening to it. Now, one of the things that I like most of all is that the band knew how to separate the twiddle from just the hard bits. I mean, when they were in like the chorus and some parts of the verses, and even in the main riff, it was fairly simple. Even the beat was very sort of four on the floor, very rooted. They had two guitarists, but for the best part, you didn't really feel that there was even a need for two guitarists because they were just sort of like doing a very simple guitar line. And then occasionally they separated, did different things, and you really got to see that sort of flourish more as you got bits where one would go to lead and one would go to rhythm, and you know, sections like that. But as in general, it was nice. They didn't feel the need that the guitars had to constantly be twiddling to justify the existence of two of them. They knew how to just play them both together and get a loud, heavy impact at certain points. I loved the choice of how they did a lot of the riffing. There was some really great riffs in there, especially in the verses. I really liked that. There was a sort of nice, like I say, slightly cheeky tone to it. The scales that they were using for the riff was slightly just a little bit in that way. It wasn't just sort of just playing along in a very sort of standard, oh, here's a root chord riff. They were doing things that slightly just added a little bit of attitude and a little bit of personality to it, which is what a good riff should do. It should take the chord pattern and it should add a little bit of a feeling to it. You know, because a riff is essentially just a quick melody, isn't it, really? And I thought the way they fleshed things out and developed things in those parts was really great. Now, the vocalist, I really loved what she was doing. Her voice was fantastic, you know, really sounded full, sounded both rocky and tonal at the same time. She's a sort of singer who you could imagine that she could, if asked to, she could transfer over to doing a pop song and pull it off without any trouble. Her voice just sounded good, but not like there was no sense that she was just sort of overusing it. And that really came across great in the chorus, which had a lot of punch, but was, again, you know, like I say, no overdoing it, no need for unnecessary flashy twiddle and things like this. Now, one of the things that kept on coming back to my mind, and this came in really early when it initially came in, was, and this is a really strange reference, because when I first say the band I'm thinking of, you're going to think, no way at all. But I'm actually thinking of a specific band's specific album. And that was the album Chuck by Sum 41. Now, usually you think of Sum 41, you might even think of what they've been doing recently, which has been a little bit dirgy, you know, clever on occasion, but a little bit on the dirgy side. Or you might think of their original stuff, which was kind of fun and carefree and a little bit more sort of pop punk. This particular album, though, had this particular album Chuck, which was kind of like their hard rock metal album. And in my opinion, borderline masterpiece, really brilliant album with loads of clever ideas where they took the simple idea of being a guitar band and really fleshed it out and did lots of clever things within that album. It had its good and bad points, but as a general, it was a really fantastic album. And this reminded me a lot of some of the things on there. Like I say, the way that the riffs were done, the ability to go between doing complicated and doing simple. I think the area where I started to wish that they maybe had been more akin, I don't want anything to be the same as anything else, but more akin to that album, was when we got to the bridge. Because one of the things that typified that album for me was the fact that it had a lot of really clever bridges, a lot of really clever breakdowns, a lot of songs where the last half of the song was really cleverly balanced to develop on what had happened in the first half. And this was, because we're always honest on this channel, remember, this was where this song, I think, kind of fell apart, was after we got past the second chorus. Because for example, the first verse and the second verse were not hugely different. There was some difference. There was some nice ways that they build things up, but it wasn't that different. Unlike bands like Bandmate, who notably make a big effort to make each second verse very different from the first, this felt like it was very much verse, chorus, but that was fine. It motored through. When we got to the bridge, like I said, I don't have a problem with you doing a guitar solo on the bridge, and the guitar solos themselves are really good. I like the way how, especially the first guitarist, worked the way up the neck and really sort of, change the tempo throughout the solo. Started with slower bits, ended on quicker bits. It really felt like it was to try and build things up, get the blood pumping. And then when it went over to a second guitar solo, no offense to the second guitarist, but it just felt like, oh, okay, well, you've just built us up really good. And even if you were just going to come straight out of the solo at that point and go into a last chorus, that would have been okay. But that's not what happened. We got a second guitar solo, which to me didn't really add anything, good in its own right, but didn't really add anything. And the backing music behind, everyone just kind of went back to the chugging riff that had been kind of already played throughout the song. So it felt like the bridge, as well played as it was, became this sort of arbitrary extension, just let's keep on playing the same thing so there's room for the two guitarists to do their solos. And that to me really undermined how well everything had worked before, how they'd been so good at layering, at what points is everyone just going to rock together and which points are things going to break up. Because the solo felt almost like painting by, like I say, not the actual solo itself. The actual way that the guitar solo was played was good. But if you look at the entire arrangement of the song and how the solo fits into that, it felt like painting by numbers. And that to me felt like a real shame, because they could have done a lot of things there. I mean, they could have key changed the backing, which is a common thing. Have the key of the backing go up just a few semitones, just to sort of add a little bit of punch to the guitar solo, and then bring it back down into the last chorus. Something like that would have just involved everyone's hands moving a little bit up the neck, and would have probably massively improved certainly added relevance to the bridge. So my big problem was that the bridge on its own, like I said, if they kept it simple, if it had just been a very short bridge just encapsulating that first solo maybe, then okay, that would have been it. But it just felt like it went on a few bars too many, didn't seem to have any ideas or real reason for why it was there. And the net result, the real problem with that, is it meant that when the last chorus came in, the last chorus felt like it hadn't been built up to. And that's the big thing. If your last chorus is going to be the same as the previous two choruses, which it essentially speaking was, you need to build up to it. And it didn't feel like it had been built up to. So it just kind of, we're back in the chorus now. And that to me was the big problem. It ended nicely. It went back to the riff at the end. It rocked along. You could rock out of it. But I just felt there was a lot of room to really make this feel a lot more powerful and give it a lot more, sort of butt-kicking credentials. Just from something simple, like maybe throwing in a key change for the solo and coming back out of it. Or I'm sure just looking at what these guys and what they can clearly do. If you can play a solo, then you're able to think of something more creative to do behind the other guitarist while they're doing things. I'm not saying doing a second solo, but maybe added something more musically interesting. So for me, this song started really good. I still like the chorus. By the end, once you go, we're back to the chorus at the end, at least it went out on a good note. I loved the vocals. The musicianship was really good. I like the balance between knowing when to be flashy and knowing when to be simple, knowing when to be intricate and when to be impactful. I do just feel that this song felt a little bit underdeveloped, like these guys maybe if they had a producer, because often this is another thing that producers do. They don't just sort of suggest things production wise for the sound. They're also in there with the band. I think if the band had maybe said to them, look, okay, if the producer said, this is a really good song, go round it a few more times, listen to it a few more times, see what you can add to it, see what maybe you're doing without thinking and what maybe you could add more interest to. I think if they'd been pushed in that direction, or if I don't know if they had time in the studio. I always hate when record companies rush bands in the studio. I think that they seem to me like a band who could have got a lot more out of this than ultimately they did. However, it is still a very good song. Would I listen to it again? Yes, I definitely would. I would enjoy to listen to it. Am I going to be listening to more of them? Well, yes, because I already promised I'd listen to a batch of their songs to start things off. I'm listening to 3 BRIDEAR songs to start my experience before you guys get in and suggest more for the continuation of the journey. Am I excited to listen to those extra songs though? Yes, I am. Because I like the sound of it. Like I say, it reminded me of things like how much I liked that Chuck album by Sum 41. It reminded me of, you know, sort of rock bands who have talent but know that their job is not to be flashy, their job is to do what is most entertaining. It reminded me of a lot of positive things, and if anything, it's got my positive will behind it. I actually, now hearing this, if this is the kind of thing they are, I want them to be good. I want to support this group, and like I say, they're most of the way there in my personal opinion. I'm just looking forward to hearing more and seeing how further songs develop, in my opinion. And as always, I know this is always hard with hard rock bands because they tend to be, you know, you can't do anything that isn't rock because then their fans will say, hey, that's not rock, which is like apparently an insult. Variation is an insult, apparently. But I would love to see, given their talents and given the number of members in the band, how much variation is in their music. I really do hope that they do different things where they are able to capture different moods and different sounds. Anyway, we'll know as I listen to more of their music. But anyway, thank you so much for tuning into this. As always, music is an objective and a subjective thing. I give my opinions as someone who's worked with music my entire life, working with bands and various things. However, I must say that I always love to hear you guys tell what you think, because often you can say something that I maybe wouldn't have thought of. We can have great discussions based on that. It's great to see you guys having discussions in the comments, as you so frequently do. And obviously, you guys know more about the band, so please feel free to tell me more there. A couple more BRIDEAR songs coming though, so hold on for those reactions, which will be coming very soon. But for now, from Japan, thank you for checking out this video. Thank you for checking out the Discord and Reddit links in the description below, as well as my Facebook and Twitter, as well as the Patreon. Yeah, big thanks to our Patreon supporters. But until I see you hopefully soon on the next video, for now, ciao ciao.